morning. We've got a lot of news to cover, particularly in the U.S. Senate. We've got hearings on the the Capitol insurrection that happened January 6th. We're having confirmation hearings for Attorney General nominee Merrick Garland, for Deb Haaland, the Interior Secretary nominee, and for Neera Tanden, the Budget Director nominee, and some uphill battles for two of those nominees. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Biden commemorating the 500,000 coronavirus deaths. All of this and more this morning on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody. I'm Alex Mahajer. If you're watching on the HAPS app, website, or platform, click the award button. Let us know you're enjoying the program. Or if you're watching on Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, wherever you may be watching, Facebook, leave a comment and bat around with me live on air. I love seeing your faces and seeing you chime in from around the country and across the globe. Good morning already. I guess it's afternoon for you now, Noel, but good afternoon to Noel Yamang. Thank you for always being such a loyal viewer, and thank you all for watching from around the country. We have a lot of headlines to cover this morning, and I want to jump right into it because we've got a lot of video presentations for you today. So first and foremost, the U.S. Senate is holding its first hearings today on the Capitol insurrection that happened January 6th. So the Senate is holding its first public meeting into security failures as part of a joint investigation by the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committees and the Senate Rules and Administration Committee. So during this meeting, first of all, a couple things worthy of note. We're hearing a lot of testimony from security personnel that was on the scene the day of the insurrection. We heard from Captain Carnicia Mendoza, who talked about her experience. I want to play a little bit of Captain Carnicia Mendoza's testimony before the Senate hearing on the Capitol insurrection this morning.
I advised the dispatcher I would respond to the DNC since that building was closest to where I was at the time. En route, I heard officers at the Capitol building calling for immediate assistance, so I proceeded past the DNC to the Capitol. As I arrived to the east front plaza of the Capitol, I heard an officer yell there was a breach at the rotunda door, and I heard various officers calling for assistance at multiple locations throughout the building. Many of the doors to the building were not accessible due to the size of the crowd. I was able to enter a lower level door with the assistance of a Capitol Division officer. Once inside the memorial door, I immediately noticed a large crowd of possibly 200 rioters yelling in front of me. Since I was alone, I turned to go back so I could enter another door, but within the few seconds it took me to walk back to the door I entered, there were already countless rioters outside the building banging on the door. I had no choice but to proceed through the violent crowd in the building. I made my way through the crowd by yelling and pushing people out of my way until I saw Capitol Police civil disturbance units in riot gear in the hallway. They were holding the hallway to keep rioters from penetrating deeper into the building. I immediately jumped in line with them to assist with holding the crowd of rioters. At some point, my right arm got wedged between rioters and the railing along the wall. A CDU sergeant pulled my right arm free, and had he not, I'm certain it would have been broken. Shortly after that, an officer was pushed and fell to the floor. I assisted the officer to a safer location and got back in line. At some point, the crowd breached the line officers worked so hard to maintain. Civil disturbance units began to redeploy to keep rioters.
So that's Captain Carnicia Mendoza from the DC police talking about her experience on January 6th during the Capitol insurrection. So now we're hearing that there are investigations being launched into members of the Capitol Police, into the DC police for potential involvement in this insurrection. And we're going to continue to hear more and more about the security failures that led up to the January 6th insurrection. And we're going to talk a little bit about Merrick Garland in just a moment. He's the Attorney General nominee, and his desire to investigate this event, this really incident of domestic terrorism. But I thought very interesting to note that despite the fact that Donald Trump's stop the steal, election denialism, and voter fraud lies really precipitated the intensity and the environment for this insurrection to occur. Despite that fact, and the consequences that have resulted because of this big election lie and the unwillingness of members of his own party to stand up to him in face of this lie, despite all of that, during this very hearing this morning, Senator Ron Johnson took the podium and used his opportunity with the microphone to start spreading more election denialism, to spread more lies, the big lie. And I just find this very shocking, and it needs to be repudiated. I don't know if major mainstream media networks are repudiating Ron Johnson and other Senate and House Republicans who continue to further this lie, or even implicitly or impliedly stating that the election was stolen, even passively, even through suggestion, even through non-answering. It should be repudiated immediately. This is Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, this morning during this hearing, which is supposed to be about security failure, trying to drum up more election denialism. Ron Johnson.
Thousands of people I passed or who passed me along Constitution Avenue, some were indignant and contemptuous of Congress, but not one appeared angry or incited to riot. Many of the marchers were families with small children. Many were elderly, overweight, or just plain tired or frail, traits not typically attributed to the riot-prone. Many wore pro-police shirts or carried pro-police black and blue flags. Although the crowd represented a broad cross-section of Americans, mostly working class by their appearance and manner of speech, some people stood out. A very few didn't share the jovial, friendly, earnest demeanor of the great majority. Some obviously didn't fit in, and he describes 4 different types of people: plainclothes militants, agents provocateurs, fake Trump protesters, and then disciplined, uniformed column of attackers. I think these are the people that probably planned this. He goes on, the D.C. Metropolitan Police were their usual professionally detached selves, standing on curbs or at street crossings and exchanging an occasional greeting from marchers. When we crossed 1st Street Northwest to enter the Capitol grounds where the Capitol Police had jurisdiction, I noticed no police at all. Several marchers expressed surprise. The openness seemed like a courtesy gesture from Congress, which controls security.
So what do you guys think about this? I mean, Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin continuing to peddle this election denialism and frothing at the mouth, might I add. It's just totally bonkers to me that despite everything that we've been through, that these folks are still willing to do this. A lot of comments chimed in this morning. Thank you, Renee Barone, for the Super Heart Award. Thank you, Pablo de la Hoya, for the Appreciate You Award. I appreciate you. Hello from Denver, Chris. Why again, good morning. And hola, bueno trader, says Lalo Chimay. Chimay? I can't read it. But it's good to see you. Tell me what you think about Ron Johnson's testimony and the investigations into the Capitol insurrection that happened. And, what we heard today from the Biden nominee for Attorney General, Merrick Garland, is that we're in day 2 of the Garland confirmation hearings, by the way, and the Senate is hearing more of Joe Biden's nominees. Merrick Garland saying that he wants to investigate what happened on January 6th, that it's a top priority for him to root out racism and white supremacy, and that we need to get to the bottom of it. In fact, I think he said from the bottom up, investigate what happened on January 6th, sort of implying that there may have been higher up involvement of people of more positions of power that were involved with this and participated. Deb Haaland is the nominee for Interior Secretary. She's facing criticism and a tough uphill battle today, joining Neera Tanden, who is the budget director nominee, in receiving a lot of scrutiny from Republicans for her public-facing criticism of, you guessed it, Republicans. So the Senate Republicans are threatening to block 2 confirmations for Senate appointment, for cabinet appointments for the Biden administration, saying that these people criticize them on social media and they don't like it. the party that decries cancel culture and is screaming about First Amendment rights and being able to speak and their freedom is so upset that these powerful women of color are have an opinion on social media. It's disgraceful. Neera Tanden, abundantly qualified. I've interviewed her. She's an abundantly qualified person. My former constitutional law professor, Hugh Hewitt, is a major conservative media figure, calling on the Senate to confirm Neera Tanden, that it sets an awful precedent to say, you said things that you don't like about us on social media. And, you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, you snowflakes. In any case, Deb Haaland also receiving criticism for comments that she's made criticizing Republicans, and rightfully so. You can't. It's appalling to me that they're trying to threatening to hold up these confirmations. Deb Haaland would become the first Native American cabinet secretary, the first Native American woman cabinet appointee, and Neera Tanden, the first Asian American cabinet appointee. So it's altogether quite annoying, to say the least. And Deb Haaland, got some heat today. This is Senator John Barrasso from Wyoming criticizing Deb Haaland for stating on social media that Republicans don't believe in science. Here's that little clip.
You tweeted, "Republicans don't believe in science." Pretty broad statement that you made there, and it was on your, this was in October of 2020, so not too long ago. Now, we're also Republicans. Do you think that as medical doctors we don't believe in science? I mean, how do you stand by this statement?
Senator, yes, if you're a doctor, I would assume that you believe in science.
So they're mad at her, and it's altogether just, come on, pull it together. You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Ted Cruz, I'm looking at you, Cancun Cruz. In any case, we'll see how these confirmation hearings go. And Merrick Garland is also getting his confirmation hearings today, and we're moving them right along. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is pushing forward with his $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package. Democrats in the House and Senate are looking to get that bill done and through committee, through reconciliation, and passed through both houses and on the president's desk no later than March 14th. That's their hard deadline. That's when previous benefits expire from the last package. And we are being told by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that they will meet that deadline. So they are moving forward with reconciliation, meaning they're not going to need Republican support to do this. Republicans will likely just try to obstruct it. And that's moving forward. And Joe Biden yesterday, President Biden commemorated a grim milestone for the United States, 500,000 American lives lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He addressed the nation on this really grim milestone and to sort of offer some comfort and speak some words of encouragement to what is, I believe, a brutalized and exhausted nation. That's how I feel. Personally, that's how I feel like maybe our country feels. People are tired. We're going into over a year now of this pandemic since the first reported cases. I think it was around this exact time last year that the World Health Organization declared this a pandemic. And I believe it was early March when we went on our first lockdowns, at least here in Los Angeles County. And I remember because I was supposed to have a birthday party and we didn't have one for me. And it looks like there's not going to be another one this year too. Don't cry for me, Argentina. I will be fine. But that's how I'm able to sort of identify the timeline here. And anyway, Joe Biden, no stranger to grief and loss, speaking to an ailing nation. Here's President Joe Biden commemorating the grim 500,000 deaths in the United States.
And it's also important to do that as a nation. For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They're never truly gone. They'll always be part of your heart. I know this as well, and it seems unbelievable, but I promise you, the day will come when the memory of the loved one you lost will bring a smile to your lips before a tear to your eye. It will come, I promise you. My prayer for you, though, is that they will come sooner rather than later. And that's when you know you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And for me, the way through sorrow and grief is to find purpose. I don't know how many of you lost someone a while ago wondering, is he or she proud of me now? Is this what they want me to do? I know, that's how I feel. We can find purpose. Purpose worthy of the lives they lived and worthy of the country we love. So today, I ask all Americans to remember. Remember those we lost and those who left behind. But as we all remember, I also ask us to act, to remain vigilant, to stay socially distant, to mask up, get vaccinated when it's your turn. We must end the politics and misinformation that's divided families, communities in the country. It's cost too many lives already. It's not Democrats and Republicans who are dying from the virus. It's our fellow Americans, it's our neighbors, our friends, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, husbands, wives. We have to fight this together as one people.
That's President Joe Biden talking about grief and giving some words of comfort to a grieving nation, commemorating 500,000 deaths in the United States. And the pandemic has affected everybody. I lost my father 2 weeks ago to COVID-19, and my aunt is currently on a ventilator where she's been for about 5 weeks, going on 6 weeks, and we're being told she's end of life. So it's a really crazy time. It's when it hits home, it's sort of shocking because I'm used to reporting on this every morning and talking about it the last 6 months on this program, and it's just numbers, and it becomes numbing after a while, and then it hits home, and I know that the loss is really confusing for me, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm just trying to speak from the heart here. Just stay safe. We're almost there. There are vaccines. We know how to stay safe and protected. I might not get sick, but will your aunt, will your dad, will your grandpa? So protect one another and stay safe, because we're so close, and being so close to getting some herd immunity and getting people vaccinated after toughing it out this long. To get sick now feels like it would be such a shame, and just got to hold on a little bit longer. So thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. Condolences. And there's 500,000 other families in this country who are grieving and still suffering, and so it's an unreal number. I'll note, 500,000 American lives lost. We're the leading nation in COVID-19 deaths. And that's because of a failure of the federal government to properly handle this crisis from the get-go, from the outset, and in fact, handle it at all from the Trump administration. It didn't need to be this way. Deaths are falling. The death rate is falling. The infection rate is falling. We are getting back more vaccines into arms, but didn't have to happen. And, we're the leading nation with COVID-19 deaths. I'll note that the next leading nation is Brazil, and they've got less than half of the deaths that we have, something like 245,000 deaths in Brazil. And we've got 5% of the world's population and the most deaths. That's saying something. That means more deaths than the third world. That means more deaths than Iran, more deaths than countries that with totally bereft healthcare systems. That's saying something. And it's a failure. So keep each other safe, everyone. If Trump would only have said to wear a mask. I mean, yeah, Renee, it's so simple and it seems so small, but it's so true that the president's words matter, that it sets a tone, that it sets an example, and that it trickles down, particularly to people that are less partisan. You know, like we all have these conversations in a partisan lens because we're talking about it. At least for me, you know, I have a bias. I have my biases precede me, and I acknowledge that. I own that every morning. I'm not trying to hide my personal biases. But for people that don't have a personal bias, who don't have a political hat in the game, who maybe are not even voters, you know, it matters when they turn on the TV and they see the president wearing a mask, just wearing a mask. So yes, after 50 years as a politician, someone's complaining about Joe Biden being a politician for 50 years. Same old Russian troll propaganda. I want to thank Fraser Ramsey for subscribing to the program. Hey, that makes you my 370,347th subscriber, Fraser. So thank you. If you want to join Fraser and subscribe to this program, visit me, haps.tv/@Alex, and click the subscribe button. You can become a recurring monthly sponsor and help support independent journalism. Buy me a cup of coffee, or just click subscribe and get a notification when we go live every morning. This has been the AM Report for Haps News, the network of now. Thank you for your comments this morning. Renee says happy birthday. Renee, not quite, March 13th. Hold on to it. But it's coming. I mean, you know, God willing, it's going to happen. A really interesting question before we go. Where do you? I think this is a worthy question. Where do you draw the line between personal responsibility and the assuagement of accountability from outside influences? I think, and I believe you're talking about the Capitol insurrection. How much responsibility do the rioters have? Versus how much responsibility does Trump have? So here's the thing: the Constitution, constitutional law says that free speech is not unlimited, that there are limitations to free speech. And one of those limitations is incitement to violence. Incitement to violence is not protected free speech if that violence, if that language is likely to result in violence and does result in violence, and you should have known that it would result in violence. It's a very low threshold, and it doesn't need to be the sole cause of the violence. So there may have been pre-planned attacks on the Capitol. There may have been very meticulous plans drawn up by bad actors in advance of Trump's speech on the 6th. But that doesn't mean that his speech wasn't a participant to the violence. It contributed to it. And if it was a cause, doesn't have to be the cause, just a cause, then it is not constitutionally protected free speech. And there's accountability to be had on both parties. I don't have any sympathy for the people that participated, that you weren't able to think judiciously enough to separate lies from reality, and that you blindly followed this absurd propaganda. I empathize. There's got to be some work done on deprogramming this, and people are very scared of that word. I think it needs to be deprogrammed because it's like it's been programmed into people, this nonsense. At the same time, even sick people have to be held accountable for their actions. And so they have to be held accountable, and so does the person that incited that spread the lie, because those people had every reason to believe him. That's the president, so he has a responsibility too. The responsibility goes both ways, and all of them, everybody, should be held accountable, and not to punished for political retribution, but so that this doesn't happen again, so that people learn. You might have believed nonsense, but that's not an excuse. You got to do better. You got to do better. That's how I feel about that. And you guys, thank you so much for joining the AM Report this morning. We'll be back tomorrow with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. And I will see you all tomorrow. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye.